Welcome to anybody who's joined us a little bit early. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. We'll be starting shortly. All right, 60-second warning, and then we'll begin. Thank you. All right, so that's the top of the hour. So let's begin. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for carving out the time from your day to join us. I'm sure everyone's calendar, like mine, is absolutely filled right now. So we'll make sure this is worth your time. Quick promise before we start. We're not going to be reading slides at you for the next hour. What we want to do is we want to have an honest talk about why requirements are still such a headache for regulated teams working in legacy environments, discuss how OpsHub can help you move to a more modern platform, and show you what we built here at Modern Requirements to help alleviate the pain once you're there. And of course, we're going to leave some time at the end for some of the questions that you might have. In the event something during this session resonates with you, perhaps you feel like we may have left a gap, feel free to comment and chat. If possible, we'll attempt to address your questions as we move throughout the session, and of course, we'll address them during our Q&A session later on. Now let me introduce the team you'll be spending the next hour with. To quickly introduce myself, I'm Dane Crawford, a longtime fixture of the Modern Requirements sales team, and I spend my days here helping teams like yours bring structure to the requirements management process inside Azure DevOps. I'm joined by Javerio Ace from Modern Requirements Professional Services team, who works closely with many of our regulated clients. We'll be showing you some of the key features of our solution during this session. And a little bit later today, you're going to hear from Amol Govalkar, engineering manager at OpsHub, when we get into the migration piece. So between the three of us, we've heard all manner of issues and pain points related to regulated work within legacy systems. A common one being, wait, which version of the requirement is actually the real one? Type of conversation that arises during audit prep. The odds are, if you've joined us today, it's because you felt this pain in the past and are likely going to be faced with this pain again in the future if you don't make a change. While we get started, feel free to drop a hello in chat, tell us where you're joining us from, which organization you're representing today, and even which legacy platforms you might be operating on. it generally does help us understand your perspective as we move throughout this engagement. So let's start with what's probably very familiar to a lot of you. When using legacy systems, four things tend to show up over and over in regulated engineering work. Firstly, ambiguous requirements. When a requirement is open to interpretation, it tends to be built incorrectly. And this usually isn't caught until much later in the process when it's far more expensive to fix. Second is broken traceability. Links between requirements, tests, and evidence live in scattered spreadsheets and disconnected tooling. When audit time comes around, things stall, rework piles up as teams try to reconnect these dots. Third, manual audit reports. Someone or a group of individuals, usually your most experienced people, are spending hours copying and pasting data together by hand just to produce something that an auditor can review. And fourth, and the true catalyst to this discussion, aging tooling. The systems underneath supporting these processes are old, and they simply can't keep pace with the speed and complexity of modern regulated development. None of these things on their own are fatal, but they will compound over time. And they compound fastest exactly when you're under the most pressure, like right before the submission of an audit. So these are the real stakes faced by regulated teams. Now, here's the picture behind all of that. As you move across the life cycle, concept, design, build, verification, and market, system complexity climbs or keeps climbing. It roughly doubles at every stage. However, in parallel, tooling capacity barely moves. Capacity starts low, and by the time you're in market, it's practically stagnated. All the while, complexity continues to increase. The gap between these two lines is where rework hides. It's also where most of your audit pain comes from, because further apart those lines get, the harder it is for you and your tools to keep that traceability intact. Now, here's the encouraging side of things. When teams modernize how they handle requirements, they typically win back 15 to 20% of engineering time. Not by working harder, by no longer doing rework and no longer hand building reports. Additionally, improvements in compliance change a project's character entirely. Instead of quarterly scramble to reconstruct evidence, it becomes continuous. Traceability is just there, maintained as a byproduct of the work itself at whatever scale you're operating at. So a fair question would be, how do you get there without abandoning everything you've already built? And that's exactly what I want to walk you through next. The whole idea is found in this one slide. Most of you already live in Azure DevOps for your boards and your code. What's usually missing is that requirement layer sitting on top or sitting inside that same home. And that's the gap that modern requirements fills. Flowing from left to right, on the left is where you probably are today, working inside a legacy platform, a fragmented and disconnected requirement tool. OpsHub is the bridge that brings that legacy history into Azure DevOps cleanly. And again, this is something that the OpsHub team is going to cover very shortly in this session. Once you're there, Modern Requirements runs natively on the Azure DevOps platform and transforms it into a real requirements platform, intelligent and audit ready. And here's the point I'd really like to stress. Your requirements your requirements are then in Modern Requirements running natively on top of your Azure DevOps, transforming it into a real requirements platform, intelligent and audit ready. And here's the point I'd like to really stress. Your requirements aren't often some separate system. Everything you create is native in Azure DevOps as an Azure DevOps work item. There's no second database, and there's nothing to keep in sync. You get requirements, discipline, and regulated work demands without asking your team to leave the environment you already trust. Now let me open up that layer now and show you what actually lives inside. So a quick tour of the stack, bottom to top. Each layer sits on the one below it. Nothing here replaces what's already available in the Azure DevOps environment you're working in today. So at the foundation, of course, is Azure DevOps platform itself. Admin, backlog, boards, pipelines, and repos. That's your system of engagement and what we build our tool directly on. Above that is your enterprise context, work items, code, test, wikis, process, even your integration and compliance history. This is everything already living in your Azure DevOps environment that the layers above can draw on. Then when you hit modern requirements, this is your system of truth. This is where smart docs, trace analysis, and baselining, just to name a few of our capabilities, live. These features enforce discipline and the regulated teams need. And it includes even tooling like our review management capability that provides access to CFR 21 Part 11 compliant e-signature sign-off. Above the modern requirements layer is our Copilot for DevOps solution. This is the system of intelligence. This is the AI layer. Among many powerful features, it has the capacity to turn transcripts and conversations into structured requirements, check them for gaps, generate diagrams, mockups, and even test cases on demand. It's an incredibly powerful tool. At the very top is Agents for DevOps, the system of action. These are the agents that handle the repetitive work and gritty tasks, like writing requirements, generating test cases, maintaining traceability, and flagging compliance issues without somebody doing it for you by hand, full automation. So 5 layers, 1 stack, all native to the Azure DevOps environment. So before I pass the session over to Amal from OpSub to introduce us to their tool and how they can support you, we're going to have a quick audience poll. So just so you know, in terms of the poll today, this is meant to be quick. Please be honest. There's no wrong answers. And I believe you should see this coming up in chat now. We'll give a minute for that to come in. And I believe this has already been answered, but don't worry. This session today is going to be recorded. We'll make sure you get a copy of it following today's call. And yeah, there's another question just about documentation and links. We'll make sure that you have all of that as well. Just know that we'll be providing some email contacts towards the end of the call here. If any specific questions come up, you can always reach out to us. And we'll help you out. So it looks like the first question here, what is your biggest challenge with your current setup? It looks like we got about 15 votes in. We'll give it another 20 to 30 seconds before we close this one. Please feel free to add your comment. Let's see a couple of votes tally up there. And sorry from my side, I'm a little green to the interface here, so if you see me stumbling around in the background, it's my own shortcoming. All right, so it looks like the votes are starting to slow down on that question right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close off this poll. So that's closing down in about 10 seconds. All right. All right. Thank you for anybody who's added a response to the poll. Very much appreciated on our side. Give some context on what the pain points are that your team's experiencing today. I'm not sure if there's going to be another one. It doesn't look like another poll is popping up here, so we'll just close that down. Looks like we're going to move on to the next part of our topic today. So a lot of what I've discussed today so far assumes that your requirements are already living in the Azure DevOps environment. And for a lot of you, they don't. Not yet anyways. You're sitting in some sort of legacy tool with years of history that you just can't walk away from. And that's totally understandable because you need a good path forward. And that migration piece is exactly what our partners at OpsHub handle every day. So with that, I'll hand it over to you now, Amal, to take us through OpsHub's capabilities. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Uh, to begin with, let me first brief you about OPSUB. When enterprises need to migrate millions of records or integrate their disparate systems that are used by different teams, they turn to OPSUB. We specialize in solving complex integration problems with consistent, reliable, and enterprise grade solutions. We support over 70 connectors in ALM, PLM, and DevOps domain primarily. We help organizations transform their technology landscape while maintaining end-to-end traceability. They get a seamless, connected experience within their own tool without even realizing that OPSUB is running in the background. Our customers include global leaders such as Airbus, AMD, American Express, Bosch, e-bike systems, to name a few. Now, let's talk about the specific offering of OPSUB that helps customers to move from the legacy TFS to the Azure DevOps. The tool is called OPSUB Migrator for Azure DevOps. Short form is OM for ADO. As the slide says, we do it in two phases. Phase one is about getting off the legacy system without the risk. Four things are important that reduce the risk. Number one, don't just lift and shift. Consolidate all the workflows that you have, standardize the templates, retire any duplicate fields that you might have, and reconcile the schema mismatches when you migrate to the Azure DevOps so that you enter the Azure DevOps cleaner than you left. Number two, migrate it in a phased manner. You can choose to move project by project or team by team. Legacy and the modern systems are going to run side by side. You make the switch to ADO in phased manner and when you and your team are ready to make that switch. Number three, there is no downtime. Even while the actual migration is taking place, your teams continue to work in the source tool. You don't need to ask your team to stop using the source tool, not even for a minute. We migrate every artifact, history record, link, attachment, comments, even status transitions are captured, and the inline references like inline image or user references within, maybe it is within the comments or within the descriptions. Everything remains intact and validated. And the best part is, before you cut over, if you find something off during the validation phase, you can always roll back and you can redo the migration for that particular piece, that is a particular project, for example. Number four, on the way to Azure DevOps, you may want to reduce some bloat. Like you may have some dormant projects that can be moved into a read-only ALM like archive. That's another offering that OPSUB has, that is called OPSUB Archive Manager, that allows you to remain compliant while keeping your new environment lean and focused. Dane, can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah. When done right, migration stops being the scary part. It becomes a controlled, reversible, and audit safe. But moving the data across is only half the job. Once it is there, it has to stay connected. And that's the phase two of a connected ecosystem. Here's the part that ties directly to the AI you are about to see in the demo. Data is the foundation of AI, and AI is only as good as the data underneath it. It needs data that's connected, current, as well as complete. This phase is about keeping the system in sync when the team or projects, a few of the teams or projects have already migrated, while both the legacy environment and the Azure DevOps environment are being used simultaneously by both the teams. Uh, in a regulated engineering organization, Data lives everywhere. As the slide shows, it may be in the legacy LM tools, it may be in the requirement management, test management, or even project and portfolio management. On their own, the systems are just islands. Right? The fix is to turn this into a connected ecosystem, and that's where the OPSOP helps. Continuous bidirectional synchronization keeps every system aligned, preserves the full history, and maintains the traceability and compliance throughout the transition. The result is one connected AI ready dataset in your Azure DevOps tool, complete and current, even before the migration is fully finished. And that's the whole point. Better data in will mean better AI out. And none of this is one off project. It's a repeatable platform capability. With that, let me hand over to Javeria, who will continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Amol, for setting up the context. And this is exactly what's going to be the focus of today, that once your data has landed safely into Azure DevOps, the question becomes, what do you actually do with it? Now, starting with the intelligence layer, where you have your high level requirements, your unstructured data, and even your raw inputs, the solution can turn it into structured work, which will now become more traceable, reviewable, and audit ready over time, all within the same environment. So I'm going to quickly share my screen here. So what you see right now on the screen is Azure DevOps. All your legacy requirements, once they are brought in from other tools, they are now going to live within Azure DevOps. And bringing them into Azure DevOps is one thing. But before you break it down into more actionable items, the first thought will be if the requirements are good to start working with. And this is where I would like to show you how the system can help you analyze your requirements using some proven analysis method like 6Cs, or you can even use invest model. And if you're coming from a compliance background, you can run in attributes and perform analysis on your data. As you hit on generate, the system is going to scan for a few different criterias. In this case, it's looking at clarity, conciseness, completeness, and for each of these criteria, it's listing down some rating along with suggested improvements. Now, 78% requirement score or quality score is good as it is. But if you would like to further elevate it, here you will get access to the context aware chat, which will help you further enhance on your requirement. You just really have to instruct the system on how you want that update to be applied. And remember, Dane pointed out earlier about requirements that are too open to interpretation. This is exactly that, caught early instead of caught in a design review 6 weeks from now. Now, once the requirements quality has been accessed or assessed, you can now break them down into more actionable work items. As we are going to the illicit functionality, this is going to help you supercharge the way you create requirements today. This high level requirement that we have brought in from one of our legacy tool can now be structured and break down into more actionable work items simply by selecting the desired work item from this dropdown. Now, since we work as an extension to Azure DevOps, we are going to be inheriting all of the key elements, such as the process template that you're using. So even if you have created custom work item types and custom fields, all these attributes will be supported throughout with modern requirement. Now, as we hit on generate, the system will start pulling in information that you can create as features or any work item that you'd like to build within your project. The users can pick and choose which requirements they would like to create within the project. I have selected a couple of features. The system here is displaying me a detailed description in a very structured format. And if you like what you see, just go ahead, create a work item by hitting on Create Link Work Item option. And earlier in the poll, people did mention one of their pain points as maintaining traceability. So we are making sure that as you're building these new work items in the project, they are never created as an orphan record. You have the ability to link it with the parent work item with the appropriate link. Now here you go. Some of my features are now created in the project. I can further drill down and expand on this hierarchy by creating my requirements or my product backlog items and even user stories. And it's now going to become even more actionable item that I can hand over to my development team to start working with. Just so you know, folks, that any data that has been currently generated is based on IIBA best practices, but we do support a lot of customization and configurations that you can apply. So the output that you would want to see is something that you just have to configure once. Now, this particular feature is helping you decompose from your high-level requirements all the way down to test cases. So even the testing teams can start leveraging the tool by decomposing their requirements into test cases. It can even help you identify some scenarios you might not have thought of initially. So it takes away that brainstorming effort and ensures that you're covering all the bases. Now, momentarily, you will see a test case that is going to be generated exactly in the format that Azure DevOps support with actions, expected results. And the best part is that once they are created in Azure DevOps, they can be taken back to the test plans of Azure DevOps and users will be able to execute and run them in native to Azure DevOps. So here you go. We have our requirements hierarchy being created. If I go back to my project and my backlog, as I refresh it, all the work items that I have created so far are now present within my backlog. And you will always get to see the audit history of what's been created using the tool. So here it says this has been created using Illicit. A best practice that we recommend here is that once the requirements are created, review them and take its ownership. So it's like AI generated but human edited. Also, as we are building this hierarchy, and since a lot of you that are joining us today work in regulated environments, I also want to touch upon this point that, and it's been highly asked that, how does the AI check for specific standards that you already have to comply with? So here, as I go back to my Copilot for DevOps, Dynamic Prompt lets you run custom analysis on your work items. You have the ability to set the context to be a query, or this could be even selected work items from your backlog. This prompt is just one example of what you can do with the help of the Dynamic Prompt feature. However, it's very robust. You can plug in any custom prompt based upon your persona, and the system will be able to help you perform that detailed analysis. But here, if you look at the screen right now, this is a detailed prompt that I have given to the system to check for either my requirements are complying to a specific standard, if not, how I can improve it. And I also want the system to identify me the loose ends that I have, what sections I've missed. This is just one example that I've put in here, which is ISO 26262. Even if you have standards that are private to your own organization, you can upload them directly with the upload file option. Anything that you're uploading in the system is always going to be secure. Nothing will ever be utilized for training the models or for learning as well. Now let's hit on generate and see how the system will help me analyze if my requirements are meeting those standards. It's looking through my data, helping me identify loose ends. It is going to give it a rating, identify the reasons of non-compliance, how I can further improve it. And along with that, it also gives me the sections that were missed while I was eliciting requirements. Now, this kind of activity easily takes up days worth of effort. But here you can see a larger backlog. With the help of query, I can just put that into the dynamic prompt, and the system will be able to perform that analysis in just a few seconds. It has given me a rating along with a reason for non-compliance, some suggested improvements on how I can further enhance my requirements. And later on, the system is also telling me exactly which areas I need to fine tune. So it really takes away that effort of identifying what's missing. So now the team can spend time to refine it instead of looking through the actual data. Now, whatever we have seen so far is very textual, and a lot of regulated spaces need more than just text. It needs diagram people can actually look at and mockups that shows what something is supposed to look like before it's built. So here we can generate diagrams for any work item that I have available within my project. You can even bring in multiple work items from this dropdown. These are a couple of stencils that we support that you can generate quickly with one click. As we hit on generate, the system will start analyzing the data, the description of the work item, the context that I've provided, and shortly you will see that it shows me this diagram end to end, starting from the top level all the way down to its alternate and primary scenarios. Just so you know, folks, it's going to be the first draft. Users will have the ability to update these diagrams at any time using this chat, as well as you can identify the subflows by clicking on this option on the right. And the system can help you identify the sub-diagrams that you can build for this high-level requirement. Now, as you're building these diagrams, you can also save it directly at the work item level, or you can save it as a Word file, as a PDF, even as an image, and share with your stakeholders. Similar concept with the mockup feature. So here you can see that with the help of the mockup, the users will have the ability to build out these wireframes. These are high fidelity wireframes. It gives your team and your stakeholders something concrete to react to early instead of everyone imagining something slightly different until the first build shows up. This is something that was generated with the help of Copilot, a mockup feature. And everything here is customizable. If you would like to edit a single component, just select the component and provide your prompt to further refine it. Users can also edit text. So if they would like to add something which is more relevant to what they want to see, they can simply update it. The best part is that the version history is always going to be maintained, which means anytime you would like to restore back to a previous version, you can simply restore it directly here. Also, just like the diagrams that we have shown you earlier, you can publish it back into the work item. And with this intelligence layer, you are building your work items, you are performing gap analysis, and also generating these visual artifacts. Everything can be stored at the ADO level, so your data remain in one platform. Now, while you're looking at all of this during our demo today, if you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. We are going to be answering the questions in the later half of the session. So if anything piques your interest, just write it in the chat and we are going to be addressing that today. So, folks, what we have done so far is we have applied that intelligence layer that Amol was talking about earlier in the webinar. What is happening here is as you're bringing your requirements over in Azure DevOps, you have your unstructured conversations, you have your unstructured requirements. This intelligence layer of Copilot is going to structure your requirements, it will perform those gap checks. You can build out your diagrams, your mockups, along with your test cases. And now that the data is available in our project, we are now going to jump right into our smart doc. Just so you know, folks, that from the work items to the analytical view, these are the native Azure DevOps module, whereas down below from document management all the way to the baseline, these are the modern requirement modules. And the smart doc is literally a dream for the BA folks or anybody who is currently writing their requirements in Word. This smart doc is going to help you build your business requirements document or your specification documents directly in Azure DevOps, essentially creating that single source of truth. Here you can create any folder structure that you would like to create for your projects. And as you're building your documents, you will notice that this entire document is built with different work items of your project. So on the top, you see your section work items with some preamble data, which is further decomposing into epic, features, user stories. This entire document is going to be live, and it really helps you with that standardization that you would want to apply within your organization. As this particular document is built based off of a underlying structure, which we call it as a template designer, what you see here is just one permutation. It's very configurable. So if you have custom work item types, custom attributes, you can set up this template once. They are reusable across the project. Now, for the document itself, you can build this document just by clicking on the plus sign. Select the desired work item type that you are looking to include. So every BA is going to be creating the document in the same consistent manner. So based on my underlying structure, I can add features under the epic. Under the features, I can start adding my user stories and so on and so forth. As I'm going to be building these work items in the document, they will be natively stored within Azure DevOps. Also, because we have brought in and migrated a couple of requirements from our legacy tool, you can also bring in that existing data using the insert work item option, which essentially allows you to bring your requirements over with the help of a query that you have built. Or you can even do a title search if need be. And as soon as the data will start showing up within this particular view, you can just drag and drop it and add that into your document. It's that streamlined. Now, when you're working in Word, you would like to maybe edit something, you would like to apply certain um, maybe color coding, or you would like to apply a certain font. With each work item that you see right now on the screen, as you double click on it, this is going to give you that smart edit feature that you can utilize for updating your text. It's a very word-like interface. You can change your font style, resize it, even add elements like table, pictures, even uploading your documents right into your work items. Anytime you're making a change, once you save and close, it will start showing up in real time in your smart docs. So you don't really have to reconcile every 4 months. If your requirements gets updated, the document will always show you the most current version of those requirements. And one of the key components that we are managing here is the versions. People who are using Word today, they know exactly what this is going to solve for them, simply because versioning in Word is extremely difficult, whereas here with the version management, users can create versions at any time. They can open existing versions to view, and even they can compare between the two documents or two versions of the document by going into the compare tab. And this will exactly show you where the delta is. If something has been removed, it will show it as striked out. If something you have added brand new, it will be shown as highlighted in green. Also, there is one pain point that folks that I've talked to in the past, they mentioned that how to export this data outside of the domain of Azure DevOps if there is a need. So for your comparisons, you can save it as Word, as PDF, or save directly to the document management module. Along with this live document, which can be exported just by the Save As option, but depending upon your various stakeholders, you may want to create custom exports. Here you can generate custom exports by using out-of-the-box templates that we provide, or you can even create custom exports or custom templates using the Designer tab. As we hit on Generate, this is how the report is going to look like, and it's ready to be exported in Word, PDF, or HTML. Also, we are making sure that the branding that you currently use in your Word document can be applied to this exported document. So just bring in your Word templates from your local device. This could contain your logos, your main page, your headers and footers. So as you are exporting the data, the branding is going to be applied in the exported document. So now that we have our requirements document in place, native in Azure DevOps, you can update them, version them at any time. Next comes the phase where you want it to get it reviewed and approved by your stakeholders. So on the top, this review management module will help you send this entire document that you have built out for review or for approval. Here I can provide a title for the review. You can also add any message or any instructions you want your users to see, along with adding them either as a reviewer who can provide comments and feedback, or as approvers who can approve or reject work items. You can also define a due date. We have by default given you today plus 7 days for this review to be expired, but this is very configurable. You can select any date you like from the dropdown. You can also apply rules when you are sending your requirements document or software specification documents out for approval. An email is going to be generated, and this will be sent out to your stakeholder as an email notification, and they can simply access the review by clicking on the hyperlink. So sending it over as an approver at my end, this is the entire document that I will be receiving. And on the right-hand side, I can approve, reject, or bulk reject the work items. And every action that I'm going to be performing here is recorded at the work item level. So here for this particular work item, I can simply go in and provide my feedback. Here I'm approving this work item. Similarly, to reject the work item, you just have to provide a reason for rejection, and then you can perform the reject option, or you can use the reject button. Any action that I'm performing is going to be recorded at the work item level. So if I go to this work item in the standard Azure DevOps editor, it shows that this work item was marked as approved. These are the comments made by this user. So everything has been timestamped and it's living natively in Azure DevOps now. Also, as the initiator, this particular feedback area will give you the ability to collaborate with your stakeholders. So you can provide a review action, you can add your comments. Anytime you're adding comments to the provided feedback, the users are going to be notified. Also, to chase up on the review or the approval request that you have sent out is extremely time consuming and you still miss sending it to somebody, we have made sure that reminders are sent every 3 days. This is an automated process which can be modified or configured to your liking. Eventually, the initiator will have the ability to send the reminder at any time they would want to. And last but not the least, within our review management, your reviewers or your approvers are providing their feedback. Everything is available online, but from audit perspective, you can generate your audit reports. This is going to be capturing your approvals, sign-offs, comments, and everything is going to be time-stamped. So you will exactly know which requirement got approved in the past, and if something gets updated, you will always have the trail of it. And now to the part when I'm going to be headed where I'm going to be heading here is traceability. And this is one that in almost every regulated team I have worked with is something someone rebuilds by hand right before an audit, usually in a spreadsheet, under a deadline by whoever is unlucky enough to be free that week. Here with the traceability, it's leveraging the existing links of your project and it's going to be there. It is going to be continuous. As you're updating your projects, you are adding more data into your projects. This matrix is always going to be live. It shows you your end-to-end traceability from your high-level requirements that you may have brought in from your legacy tools into Azure DevOps. It's showing that how it is decomposing into the features. The features are further breaking down into user stories, and then we have test cases that are validating the stories, all within one view. So you don't really have to do the guesswork where the requirements are living, if they are getting traced or not. Here, this traceability will show you that end-to-end trace report. Even if you need to do it for a single work item, just click on View Link Tree, and this is going to show you the parent work items and the children work items for that selected item. Also, if you're using Azure DevOps today and you prefer more of a backlog view, just switch to the tree view. As regardless of how you have linked your work items, whether you have used related links, predecessor, successor, you will be able to see that here clearly, how the work items are decomposing, in which state they are, and so on and so forth. Also to keep in view the management or the project managers who are dealing with your projects, and this could be a lot of data they are looking into. The analytical view is showing you a quick graph of how many requirements are currently active, if the requirements are still in new state and needs to be updated, also how many work items are missing downstream. So in a glance, they will be able to identify the gaps that you have within your project. And as I mentioned that this is a live environment, as you go here, update your work items. I'm just gonna click on this work item. We'll create one test case. Let's use the tested by link, but this could be essentially any link. As I'm adding this test case, I can also provide actions and expected results. Here, after rerunning the matrix, here you go. So the matrix will always going to be live, showing you the most up-to-date version of your project. If you ever want to save this report, just click on Export to Excel, and whatever you see right now on the screen is going to be made available in the exported Excel. And on this particular topic, we are talking about live work items. Everything is live. Even the requirements that you're building in Azure DevOps will always stay within their most up-to-date version, which is a good segue to our baseline feature, which helps you lock your requirements, take a snapshot of it at any point in time. These baselines, when they're created, it's going to take a screenshot of the work items and their revisions. How you can do a quick comparison is by using the compare tab, and it will essentially shows you which requirements have changed and which requirements remain as it is. And users will be able to generate difference report from an audit perspective, which is going to ensure it stores who made the change, when the change happened. This particular feature also gives you that ability to restore the requirements to a previous version at any point in time. Every action you are performing is going to be stored, and you will get the visibility of who made that change. And as change requests are coming your way, you can also perform impact analysis on how these changes are going to impact work items or requirements downstream or upstream. So here, as I'm going to the impact assessment, I will be taking that particular work item that we have updated. Let's use this one. And let's enable Copilot for DevOps from the context menu. And the impact assessment is going to help me identify the impact downstream or upstream. I'm just going to refresh my screen in a minute. And let's go to the backlog instead. So here, as we go to the impact assessment module, this is going to help me identify the impact downstream or upstream. As the changes are coming your way, you can provide an explanation of that change or even provide a work item that is changing into this view, and the system will be able to perform that detailed assessment. So here I'm going to be adding an explanation. Let's include so this is a very high level explanation that I'm giving. As I perform analysis, the system will help me identify how the ripple effect would be for the work items downstream. Here you can see it says the impact is going to be high, along with an explanation and the task you need to create in order to handle that impact. Because oftentimes we have seen that once the change requests are coming, the efforts are lost in translation, but now you exactly know how much additional effort will be required. So you are finding this out the moment that change happens in a planning conversation instead of finding out during the audit itself when it's much more expensive conversation to have. And with that, I'll bring it this to full circle back to what Amol said before I started. You have your requirements brought into Azure DevOps. Modern requirement will fine tune it so you have better data in, so you get better output. Modern requirement will take that messy input or half-baked requirements. It will turn it into structured work. It will check for gaps. And then the users can create their live document inside of Azure DevOps to maintain traceability. You can baseline the requirements at any point in time and even get them reviewed and signed off with a real audit trail the entire way through. And with that, guys, I will hand it back to Dane and we'll open things up for question next. Thank you.
Thanks, Amal, and thanks, Joaria, for that great overview. So, if any of this struck a chord with anybody, here are two ways that you can take it further, and neither of them really ask much of you. The simplest way to get started with modern requirements is getting in touch with us for a personalized demonstration. We can easily set up a demo and provide a overview of our solution in context of what you're doing today, and we can even send you away from that session with an evaluation environment available for you to play around with our solutions. However, if the legacy migration is your bigger blocker, start with Ops Hub instead and get a scope plan. The assessment is free, no obligation attached. Plenty of teams end up doing both. Just let us know what works best for you, and we're happy to support. We'll drop both of these links in chat in a few seconds, and they'll be available in the follow-up email to today's session, so there's nothing to write down. Again, if you'd just rather talk to us directly and see how we can assist you, feel free to just reach out by email. That email comes straight to us. Now, as Joeri alluded to, we're going to open up things for a little bit of a Q&A session. This is the part where you can ask some questions. I'll work through whatever is already in chat so we can keep them coming. A few things people tend to ask most often when we're in these sessions is, for example, how long does a migration take, or whether it slows down, your engineers while the migration is happening. And while Amol did address some of those questions from the ops side earlier, we'd happy to dig into those or even some new requests that you might have. If we run out of time before we get to your specific question, just know that it's in chat. We have the chat as well as your email. We'll follow up properly afterwards, so nobody gets left hanging. So again, we have two great members from the respective teams, Amol and Joeri, acting as subject matter experts for the purpose of this Q&A. So let's get into things. And like I said, if any other additional questions pop up, we can try to resolve them as we go. So headed back earlier into the conversation here, it looks like a question came up. It says, how does the solution maintain end-to-end traceability between requirements, Azure DevOps work items, source code, test cases, and release? So I think this might be a little bit of a question for both teams. So if you want to join back here, Joeri and Amol, please feel free to join the stage and take the question on as we go here. And I think there might have been a reply in chat, but we can definitely just open it up in the call.
Yeah, I got a clarification in the chat that it is more for modern requirements. But yeah, while during the migration, all the traceabilities are carried forward along with the migration. So whatever was connected in the source system stays connected in the new tool as well.
Absolutely. And once your requirements are in Azure DevOps, you have seen how the links are maintained throughout because everything stays within one platform. And with our traceability module, you can see end to end from your high level requirement all the way down to test cases. And these requirements are also linked to the pull request and the code repos that are available in Azure DevOps. So everything will always be traceable and trackable.
All right, thank you. So it looks like I said, I'm just going to kind of go through things as we go here. It looks like the next question is, can requirements or user stories in Azure DevOps be downloaded or exported in a format suitable for sharing with external stakeholders, such as Excel, Word, PDF, or CSV? If so, what is the recommended approach?
And that's actually a very great question. And we have briefly touched upon our smart report tool that will help you create custom exports that you can download at any time. So whether there are requirements sitting in your backlog, in the queries, you can simply export them using the smart report tool. And it will support your Word format as well as PDF format. And if you'd like to export this to CSV, there is a native capability within Azure DevOps that can help you with that use case as well.
Excellent. And if you have further questions, feel free to reach out to us. We can always, dive into that in greater detail. So the next question comes from Radu. Can the platform automatically generate formal documentation such as software requirements, specifications, SRSs, system design documents, SDDs, interface control documents, ICDs, or customer deliverables?
100%. Now, there are a couple of ways they can do it, either by using Smart Doc, which helps them with compliance related documentation, which can be versioned at any time. Along with that, we also have an SOP document generator, which is great for one time document generation, gives you a great first draft, which the users can further enhance later on with their intelligence, with their with their knowledge as well.
Excellent. So next question. Does the tool support migration between Azure DevOps organizations, i.e. from one Azure DevOps organization to another Azure DevOps organization?
Yes, that is supported. Any, like, you can go from TFS to Azure DevOps or even Azure DevOps to TFS, etc. So all that combinations are supported.
Excellent. Another question from Rishi here. Is Copilot for DevOps available within the basic Azure DevOps package subscription, or is this part of a premium package or subscription? So this is probably a question best handled by me. Copilot for DevOps is an add-on to the Azure DevOps environment through Modern Requirements Solutions. It's included in our MR for DevOps Frontier AI and Engineering AI SKUs, or can even be purchased as a standalone solution. If you want more information about that, Rishi, feel free to reach out to me directly and I'll get you some more information. So we're coming to the end of the session. We'll try to get a couple more questions in here. We don't want to keep anybody longer than the hour. So next question is Modern Requirements supported only for Azure DevOps services, or is it also supported on Azure DevOps Server or on-premise?
So modern requirement is supported both for on-cloud and on-prem versions, and users will be able to download the extension for their on-premises as well. So it's supported both ways.
Excellent. And I'm going to try to grab one question that came in towards the end here. Do you have a tool that can migrate test plans, suites, and test cases between Azure DevOps projects?
That can be done using the same tool, but means you can just point the source and the target at the as the same instances and select the source and target project accordingly. So it should be feasible.
Excellent. So, based on the questions that we've received today, it looks like there's a lot of yeses. I'm sorry that we weren't able to get to everything. Like I said, we're going to review any unanswered questions, make sure that we reach out to you via email so we can support those. As we have, only a minute left in the call today, I just kind of wanted to move forward to say, thank you for your time today. Very much appreciated from my side. And I really do mean that. If there's one idea that you can take away from today, let it be this. You don't have to choose between the history you've already built and a more modern way of working. OpsHub gets your data across. Modern Requirements makes it useful once it's there, and it all lives in the Azure DevOps environment you already trust. The recording and both links will land in your inbox shortly. If you'd rather, again, just talk to a person like myself instead of clicking through on the demo link, or you want to reach out to OpsHub directly, please do. Our emails will be in that communication. It comes straight to us. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your day. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope to hear from you soon.